Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm from Group 2. I'm Adinda Zahra and my friend Khairunisa. In Group 2, we will discuss about types of guidance service, individual understanding techniques, and basic counseling concept. And our material research from guidance and counseling book, which editor by Dr. Kulwinder Pal. And this is a material we divide in three sections. The first chapter, the types of counseling that involves directive counseling, non-directive counseling, and eclectic counseling. In chapter 2, individual understanding techniques, that there are two test techniques and non-test techniques. In chapter 3, that basic counseling concept, there are understanding counseling and process stage. In the first chapter, the types of counseling, there are directive counseling, non-directive counseling, and eclectic counseling. The first, that directive counseling. Directive counseling is type of counseling is a concept where educational and vocational guidance relate to the personality dynamics and interpersonal relationships. This approach does not focus its attention on personality development, and a major goal is to replace emotional behavior of the individual with deliberately rational behavior. This type counselor plans the counseling process, is analyze the problem, identify the triggers, identify the exact nature of the problem, and provide various options. In this directive counseling have 5 steps that number 1, analyze, number 2, synthesis, number 3, diagnosis, number 4, prognosis, number 5, counseling. The first analysis, this involves collecting from various sources the data needed for an adequate understanding of the client. This includes administration of psychology tests and other. Number 2, synthesis. This refers to summarizing and organizing the data so obtained as to reveal the assets, liabilities, adjustments, and maladjustments of the counselee. This includes of the data obtained through psychological testing also. Number 3, that diagnosis. This stage is concerned with formulating conclusions regarding the nature and the cause of the problem exhibited by the student. Number 4, that prognosis. This refers to predicting the future course of development of the counselor's problem in the light of conclusions are made earlier. Number 5, counseling. This is not most important step, that the counselor leads as an expert, evaluates and gives suggestion advice. Now, that counseling involves assisting the student in self-appraisal, helping him or her to plan a course of action which utilizes the capabilities and potentialities in establishing an adaptive lifestyle. And the next types of the counseling, that non-directive counseling. Non-directive counseling involves active listening by the therapist. This counseling option ideally enables patients to understand their behavior while accepting their individuality. This relationship is one in which the counselor seeks to bring about a better appreciation and a clearer expression of the client's latent inner research. This counseling have 4 techniques. The one, with listening to accepting. Number 3, respecting and understanding. And number 4 is responding. Listening by the therapist proves essential in non-directive counseling rather than being an active participant in therapy. The therapist's main job is to listen to the patient. Number 2, accepting unconditional positive regard. A vital aspect of non-directive therapy enables patients to feel safe, secure, and accepted regardless of the things they have done. Number 3, perspective and understanding. Perspective, the patient is essential in the psychotherapy. The counselor not only respect the privacy of the patient but also the patient's integrity, personal beliefs, and moral. Number 4, responding that the way in which the counselor responds to the patient plays a direct role in the healing process. The counselor using feedback and restating the ideas of the patient force the patient to acknowledge ineffective or inappropriate behavior and thought patterns. The next type is eclectic counseling. Eclectic counseling is defined as the synthesis and combination of directive and non-directive counseling. It represents a middle status between the two extremes, represented by the non-directive techniques on one hand and the directive techniques on the other. The step of the eclectic counseling: number 1, diagnosis the cause. Number 2, analysis of the problem. Number 3, preparation of a tentative plan for modifying factors. Number 4, securing effective condition for counseling. Number 5, interviewing and stimulating the client to develop his own research and to assume its responsibility for trying new modes of adjustment. In eclectic counseling, that has also characteristic their followers to in this objective and coordinating methods are used in the beginning of counseling. Client active methods are used and the counselor remains passive. In this, more importance is assigned to the job efficiency and treatment. In this, the principle of low expenditure is emphasized, and also the disadvantage of eclectic counseling. Some people are of the view that eclectic counseling is vague, opportunistic, and superficial. Both directive counseling and non-directive counseling cannot be mixed together. In this, the question arises how much freedom should be given to the client. For this, there is no definite rule. The problem with an eclectic orientation is that counselors often do more harm than good if they have little or no understanding about what is helping the client. And also there are therapeutic implication of eclectic counseling, that all psychopathological or distraught conditions are examples of disorders of integration, and the goal of the methods of psychological counseling is to strengthen and improve the quality of the integrative process, thus fostering higher levels of self-actualization. The therapist has to assess whether the client has the necessary recourse to take on the responsibilities of his life. If the therapist is satisfied, he gives the client the responsibility of taking on some routine tasks to start with. Therapy involves the training and re-education of the client in acquiring the control necessary for self-regulation.
The next is individual understanding technique. They divide into two. There are test technique and non-test technique. And in the test technique, there are psychological tests, intelligence test, aptitude test, achievement test, attitude scales, and personality test. And psychological tests are designed to assess the characteristics of people, such as their abilities, attitudes, motivation, interests, needs, and values. Psychological tests can be defined as a sample of an individual's behavior obtaining under standard conditions and score according to a fixed set of rules that provide a numeric score. Next is intelligence test or intelligence test. Intelligence has been one of the most popular psychological term used in identifying individual difference. It has helps to explain that people differ from each other in their ability to understand complex ideas or to learn from experience. The next, oh sorry, and in intelligence test defined by nine. Number one is linguistic intelligence. Linguistic intelligence is are the capacity to use language fluently and flexibly to express one's thinking and understanding others. Use in reading a book, writing a paper, a novel, or a poem, and understanding spoken words. Number two is logical mathematic intelligence. Thinking logically, critically, using abstract reasoning to manipulate symbols and solve mathematical problems. Intelligence tests. There are any linguistic intelligence is the capacity to use language fluently and flexibly to express one thinking and understanding others. Used in reading books, writing a paper, a novel, or a poem. Number two is logical mathematical intelligence. Thinking logically, critically, using abstract reasoning to manipulate symbols and solve mathematical problems. Number three is spatial intelligence. Abilities involved in forming, using, and transforming mental image used in getting from one place to another, in reading a map, and is packing suitcase in the trunk of a car so that they all fit into a compact space. Number four is musical intelligence. There are capacity to produce, create, and manipulate musical patterns used in singing a song, composing a sonata, playing a trumpet, or even appreciating the structure of piece of music. And then purely kinesthetic intelligence. Our ability to use one's body and muscular structure in a coordinate plane way, used in dancing, playing basketball, running a mill, or throwing a javelin, like athletes, dancers, actors, gymnasts, and sports person. Number six is interpersonal intelligence, used in relating to other people, such as when we try to understand another person's behavior, motivates our emotions, counselor, psychologistic, uh, politicians, and social works. Number 7 is intrapersonal intelligence. Interpersonal intelligence is knowledge of one's internal strengths and limitation and using that knowledge to relate to others. The next is naturalistic intelligence. Complete awareness to our relationship with the natural world, useful in recognizing the beauty of different species of flora and fauna and making a distinction in the natural world. And the last is existential intelligence. Existential intelligence are we can be defined as the ability to be sensitive to or have the capacity for conceptualizing or tackling deeper or larger questions about human existence, such as the meaning of life, why are we born, why do you die, what is consciousness, or how did we get here. And number 2 from individual uh, technique is aptitude test. Aptitude is true of a national tendency, special ability or capacity or cluster of abilities. Often these natural abilities are looked at in relationship to a person's readiness to learn or their suitability for particular career. For example, in order to be successful artist, one must possess two cluster of abilities such as a keen sense of observation, a sense of aesthetic visual memory, abstract reasoning, and an ability to sketch freehand. The next is achievement test. Achievement is one successfully accomplishes in an area of study, activity, or domain. In the case of student, it may be conceptualized as successful learning of the assigned educational material. Such learning is usually demonstrated to teachers and others either through a verbal presentation or a written examination. Number 4 is attitude skill. Attitudes are expressions of how much we like or dislike various things. We tend to approach and seek out be associated with things we like. We avoid, shun, or reject things we don't like. Attitude uh, represent our evaluation and performance towards a wide variety of objects, event, person, and situation. The next number 5 is personality test. Often by person use the term personality to indicate the physical makeup of an individual. The term personality, however, signifies much more than simply the physical looks of a person and has a very broad meaning. It includes the emotional, motivational, interpersonal, attitudinal, and even moral aspect of a person. Some researchers have included intelligence also as part of personality. Okay, maybe that's five. I think enough. And then non-test technique. There are any autobiography. An autobiography is an introspective report of own experience. The psychological test, it is often pointed out, cannot provide adequate information for observation could be introduced artificially within the test situation. Number two is anecdotal records. The recorded observation, usually made by teachers, are called anecdotal record. This technique assists in the understanding of each student better. Froelich and Hoyt define anecdotal records as follows. An anecdotal record consists of an objective description of pupil behavior in a particular environmental setting, in interpretation of the behavior by the observer, writing the description, and a recommendation for future action based on the incidents and its interpretation. Number two is rating scales. The rating scales are a mean of quantifying observation and are easy to use. Several observations can rate the same individual using rating scales for obtaining more information. And then cumulative records. Cumulative records provide an organized, progressive record of information regarding the student, which distinguishes him from all other individuals. The next is pupil data questionnaires. The pupil data questionnaires consist of items regarding the student's home, family, health, educational, and vocational plans, out of school and in school activities, and study habits, etc. The next is sociometric technique. Sociometric technique measure the interpersonal preference among the members of a group in reference to a criterion. The purpose of this technique is to measure each individual social worth or personal value as viewed by his peers. According to Berkeley, sociometry is a method of discovering and analyzing pattern of friendship within a group setting. And the next is case study. A case study is an analysis and documentation of data collected in a case history. It comprises the information gathered about a client, including the family history, physical development, and others. Next is interest inventory. Interest are are related to general ability, special aptitudes, and various ways. Linguistic and scientific interests are positively correlate with intelligence. Technical interests are related to mechanical aptitude, and business interests are related to the tendency to stress material as opposed to theoretical, social, or aesthetic values. And then is basic counseling concept. There are understanding counseling and process stage. From understanding counseling, counseling is a learning-oriented process carried in a simple one-to-one social environment in which the counselor, professionally competent in relevant psychological skills and knowledge, seeks to assist the client by methods appropriate to the latter's needs. And counselor not deprive the right of self-choice, but simply facilitates choice. The counselor should give due respect to the individual and accept him. And counseling, the decision making and planning model occupies the counselor's attention such that he tries to help rational problem solving process, clarify self concept and value. And the process stage number one is the awareness of need for help. Stage number two is the counseling consistent of the development of relationship. The third step in counseling is to aid expression of feeling and clarification of problem. And the last, the client may mistake ventilation of feelings for a resolution of feelings. And then proper appreciation of the feelings, and the counselor can help the client see each feeling in its proper perspective without either only exhibiting fear. True not The next is true not spelled out very clearly is concerned with the him perspective. Clients usually are confused about their time perspective. Stage number two is counselor and psychotherapist. The importance of helping the client gain insight to himself by the counselor. Beginning of counseling session maybe like introduction, welcome the client and make him comfortable. And then active attending or listening. Active listening means listening carefully and paying attention to verbal as well as non-verbal signal. And then give questioning. Always try to use question and establish communication. Interpretation goes beyond what is explicitly expressed by the feeling and implied meaning. And then summarizing and confrontation. Confrontation involve a direct examination of incongruities and discrepancies in the client thinking. And then respect client views and beliefs and build on them. maybe that's for me. The last we say wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.